are three elements that are necessary to create the proper environment before we do Chinuch. This is the backdrop. Before we do Chinuch. Markivei hareka hem shloisha. Sviva toiva. The child to be surrounded by right people. That means wherever he goes, the family, the school, the shul, recess, wherever he's going, the block. You need to have a sviva toiva. Tchunas nefesh mishubacha shalahirim. The parents need to work on themselves to behave properly and act with a good nature. Avira matima shel habayis. And the home, before the child comes into the picture, the home needs to have a healthy and suitable atmosphere to be able to do chinuch. Interesting, these three things before the child come are in the power of parents. Sviva toiva is a little bit sometimes hard because you don't know who the friends are, you have to be very careful. But tchunas nefesh mishubacha shalahirim. Can you all imagine being raised by Rav Pam? Of course their children are going to be raised more edel. Think about how we raise our children. If the parents are edel people and they are merciful people and compassionate people and nice people and positive people, of course that's going to give the child a better chance. So a lot of the way the children are going to end up is really depending on ourselves. So we have to work on ourselves. I saw so many Gedalim that all had the same, from all different kreisen, they all had the same story, where parents went and they said, okay, we have a child, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, when should we start doing chinuch? And they all said, you're way too late. Chinuch starts when you work on yourself, years before you have children. A child who's raised in an atmosphere of kedusha, of tara, of calm, of saying everything's fine, emunah, bitachon, that child is a much better place in life, much better chance to come out successful. So a lot of chinuch, before we start turning on our kids, we have to realize we are responsible to set up markivei hareka, the three elements to create proper environments. Sviva toiva, as much as we can. Tchunas nefesh mishubacha shalahirim, our tchunas hanefesh, the way that we behave. And avira matima shel habayis. Right? If we can realize a Goyisha house, before anybody does anything, it's a Goyisha house. A kid can't grow up with proper ruchnius in a Goyisha house. Over here also we have to be careful that the atmosphere in our home should be a Jewish atmosphere. We see this by Avram Avinu. He brings out such a beautiful point. Umurumaz inyan zeh b'pasuk. She'amar Hashem la'Avraham, lech lecha me'artzecha, number one, me'artzecha, mi'maladetecha, u'mibeis avicha. And then afterwards, v'ARTSCROLL l'gay gadol. So if you dissect the pasuk the way that the Nesivas Shalom looks at it, the pasuk is telling you, before I can make you l'gay gadol, there's something I need from you. What is it? Lech lecha, from three stages. Artzecha means your country. Ma'aladetecha means your hometown. And mibeis avicha, from your family. If you are able to lech lecha, to take yourself out of those three, which we're going to explain what it is, then I can start being mechanech you. I could start expecting you to be good. v'ARTSCROLL l'gay gadol. Ukfar hiksha mefarshim. Lama hakos of maktam es ha'ma'ucher. The mefarshim already say, l'chayra, it's in reverse. Hari b'shasha adam yotzei miderech, oiziv tchila as beis avicha. When a person is going on a trip, first you pull out of the driveway. You leave your house, and then you leave Ma'aladeta, you leave the town, Me'as ha'aretz, and then you leave the country. That's what the Mefarshim ask. So listen what he explains. The Eibishter was telling Avraham, before I make you into a great nation, which was the Haftacha Shetizgashem, the promise that became a reality in Huledas Yitzchak, as it says, Kebi Yitzchak Yikar L'Chazara, Shehu Oil Tmim of Yisai to Ummah, which is the foundation of the nation. Before that could happen, Alecha, you Avram Avinu have something to do. Alecha lehiz tzarachei koidim, mikol ha'ashbois ha'aviram shel artzecha. First, you have to be misrachik yourself from the hashba, from the influence of the avira, of the atmosphere of artzecha, of your land. Tifrois gam mikol tchunas hanefesh ha'moiladetecha, which is mikar tzur machtzaf. You have to get rid of the bad character traits that are imbued into you from being raised in a certain area. The hardest part, toisif oid, you have to add on more avoida on yourself, v'tishtachrer, and free yourself. Mehashpoi so havira shel beis avicha. That's the hardest part. The hardest part is not, in the beginning you can, okay, I'm not going to think about the hashpah from America, from living with Goyim. Then afterwards, my city. But to actually think about the bad character traits that are inside of you by the way you were raised, that's the hardest thing to get rid of. Actually, it's the opposite. We thought it's backwards. It's not at all backwards. The Eibishter is counting from the easiest until the most difficult. Ki hashpa'is ha'aretz, the hashpah that we have from the aretz that we live in, ibchusa b'harbei me'hashpachis mo'iladatecha b'kol shkei mibeis avicha. V'rak acharei shetisrachik mikol zeh, only after he purified himself from any kind, Nikol Siguf Gam, from any deficit, from any shaykhis to the midas and to the attitudes of all of these levels, now you're ready to do chinuch, you're ready to be a great nation, to have great kids. V'yuchal Yitzchak lihivalid, and now Yitzchak can be born. We're ready to have a Yitzchak after the parents purify themselves from any shaykhis to bad influence. V'isa b'svarim akleishim. Shalochen hayitzarech Avram Avinu lavra as eser hanasyonis ad shehis'ala l'dargosei el yonisha b'chav chaismin. First, Avram Avinu had to go through the 10 nisyonis. After he reached the 10 nisyonis, he went through it. He reached b'chav chaismin, that Hashem said, "Wow, you made it." So now he was ready to have a child. Mashe enkein Yitzchak Avinu, alav Shalom. Yitzchak shayikvar kadosh mirechem. He was already holy from when he was born. Ki noiled ba'avira kedusha. Avram Avinu was born in Terachville. He had to purify himself and go through Aser Nisyonis. But think about it, Yitzchak didn't have Aser Nisyonis. Why not? Because Yitzchak was born in the home of Avram and Sarah. Yitzchak was born Ba'avira de Kedusha. He didn't have to go through the purification process. And he says a beautiful thing by Chas and Kala. Now we can understand why did Chas and Kala get Mechila on the day of their chuppah. V'lachein moichlin l'chasen v'chala b'yayim chupasan al kol avanisayim ki HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'roiv rachamav noisein es ha'afsharis l'chol Yehudi shahoylech livnois beisay l'hokum deris yisharim. The Eibishter has rachmanas. We are supposed to do the 10 nisyonis and purify ourselves. He knows that we can't do it, but he knows that you can't go ahead and build a Bayis Ne'eman B'Yisrael, a holy place, if you don't have that level of pure kedusha and a clean slate. So the Eibishter B'Reiv Rachamav, what does he do? He gives us complete forgiveness. As much as we're able to do tshuva, we do. As much as we're able to change, to start fresh, we do. And on the part that we don't have the koyach that Avraham Avinu had, to really extricate ourselves from all the tumah and all the influence that we went through until the chuppah, the Eibishter says, I'm giving you a freebie because I know that there's no way for you to raise Jewish children if you're going to come in with that baggage. So the Eibishter goes ahead, the Yidden are coming, this couple is coming, and they're saying, we want to build a Bayis Ne'eman B'Yisrael, we want to have good generations. So the Eibishter says, okay, fine. The Eibishter says, it's on me. I'm going to go ahead and purify you, undeserved, from any residue of spiritual impurity and flaws, from either your surroundings, hein elu shemikoich hasviva, ve'hen mikoich pagamav, v'chatov, chatos neurim, she'eschisu tchunas nafshay, v'hakol b'chtei, she'yeh ra'ui lotzes mehem zera kodesh be'erech Hashem. And the Eibush is going to purify them, the Chas and Kala, from the surroundings, from the personal shortcomings, from any sins of their youth that brought about the negativity into their souls. Because you cannot raise Jewish children if you have all of that baggage. So the Eibush B'Reiv Rachamav, he goes ahead and he gives them the purity. Then, after that holiness that they got for free, Hatafkid Arishan Shalahem, who litzar eso avira kedusha. Now that they're coming in to build a house, now they have to go ahead and create a clean and pure atmosphere. Make sure not to bring those things from their past into the future, and not to have an atmosphere. We're not talking about sin per se. We're talking about an atmosphere. The atmosphere should be so holy and pure for the children. Why? Because aviras habayis, the atmosphere, the climate, and the spirit of the house. the spirit of the attitudes and values that are in that house, mechanchim b'yoser, are machanach even more be'ein omer ve'ein dvarim, without saying anything. Ve'hem goyrim chinuch rishon b'mala. That is the chinuch rishon. That is actually the greatest effect of a child. And really, we should think about it. Again, we're not talking about kips and TP and off the derech and trauma. We're talking about regular chinuch. We're raising our kids in a certain atmosphere. And that atmosphere, before they have a struggle or a challenge, before we have to think about how to punish, be mechanech, criticize, love, before they act, what is the atmosphere like in the home? That is goyrim, that is what creates the biggest impression on a child. Kids are growing up in Meir Sha'arim, we know. They could be very, very poor and they're somehow very, very happy. Those kids are going to have that attitude of someone who grew up in a type of Torah Kedusha atmosphere. Someone who grows up in a different type of secular environment. Before they teach the kid, it's before chinuch, the kids are growing up in an environment. So the aviras habayis, and this is something that we really have to take home. We have to realize the environment of the house is the first impression, and it does a tremendous amount to determine what the kids are going to be like. What does aviras habayis mean? If a house is tense, if there's pressure, if there's arguing, if there's fighting, then that's not the proper avira of a bayis to be able to allow a child to be able to have she'ifis in life, beguf, nefesh, ruach, and neshama. If a house has bad values and the spirit of the house is not pure and innocent, and instead there's things going on there that are adult and goyish, of course that's going to affect the children.